Hello everyone and welcome back to another episode of this series I have on my SpaceFlight Simulator. Here we have an Osprey rocket, which you might remember this from the Falcon Heavy thing, but I've renamed it because this is kind of like my own mini series, and this is the exact same save that I'm using for the uh I'm thinking about Moon Space Station and the original video I made on SpaceFlight Simulator, the single launch space station. But here we are doing our gravity turn maneuver now. Um, you might also realize the new textures I have added. Those are just the plain textures that I realized it, a lot of space SpaceFlight Simulator creators use that. But some of the keen eyed of you might notice the difference between this and the Falcon 9. The second stage actually has parachutes on it, which means that we are going to actually land. But before we get carried away on the landing, we're gonna try to land the first stage later. And the payload for this mission is the three satellites. Don't mind that. Three satellites that is going to be sent to low Earth orbit. Actually higher than the moon, the space station orbit, but still pretty low Earth orbit. Okay. Um, they are three mini satellites, all ion powered, basically powered by xenon gas and electricity. But apparently in this game, all rockets use the same fuel, so there's that. But we are just gonna get this rocket into its parking orbit, not fully orbit yet, and we are gonna try to land the first stage. Here we are just flipping the rocket, deploying one gear, deploying the other one right now, and here we are doing a pretty tough burn and immediately cutting off the engines. The real Falcon 9 wouldn't be doing this. It would actually be doing what is called a suicide burn, but that's almost physically impossible for a human to do unless they have insanely great reflexes and amazing mathematics skills. But here we are doing multiple burns to try and land this thing, and I say try to land because it's very hard to land this thing. As you can see, we have crashed. It's okay. The engine survived. Those are the very expensive parts, but we are going to be raising the orbit of our what do you call this? Second stage with the payload. Don't mind that again. We're going to raise the orbit of this until we are in an eccentric orbit, which is basically a non-equal perihelion. Wait, but periapsis and the apoapsis. And every time we hit apoapsis, we will turn apoapsis, aka the highest orbit, our highest point in orbit. We will be deploying a single satellite, then making that satellite go into a circular orbit. We are doing this so that we each have a spaced out network of satellites, which is what people do for geostationary orbits in, I believe, games like KSP and SpaceFlight Simulator, which is I'm pretty sure when Steph made this game, pretty sure he just wanted a mobile version of KSP without the Kerbals. So there's that. But here we are doing the excruciatingly long burn of the first satellite to get into its orbit, and we know it's in a pretty circular orbit when the apoapsis and periapsis begin swapping places. So here we are. You can see the periapsis and apoapsis of this satellite slowly moving, and then boom, there it is, perfectly centered. Not exactly centered, but equal enough. Okay, equal enough. And you can see in the low orbiting, there's the tiny satellite, the space station we made, which actually has taken some damage. It broke two of its solar panels. So, you might need to fix that soon. But here we are doing the next satellite. Basically, same thing as the last time, but you could see now that the other satellite is spaced out, and this is the what is called trisat because we are launching three satellites into basically the same altitude of orbit and praying to God that they do not hit each other. Which in SpaceFlight Simulator, I've never seen a craft hit each other. Like, if I leave them on their own and then they hit each other, I have never seen that. I've obviously hit another spacecraft with a spacecraft that I was piloting, so yeah, there's that. Also, here we are now, finishing up the second satellite burn, then swapping to the second stage, or what's left of the second stage, and the last satellite. We are gonna time accelerate to the last apoapsis and prepare to launch the last satellite. Here we go. And then we're gonna do the burn. And then here. Each of these burns took like a few minutes. I don't know how much time, how fast forwarded these things are, but you know, you live and learn. But I've used ion thrusters because even though they're very weak, they are still very efficient. As you can see, the fuel that they're using is very tiny, and them raising their orbits like this is pretty good enough since they're tiny satellites and using very little amount of fuel. And if these satellites ever take damage, we can just deorbit them using what's left of the fuel, or even raise their orbits in the future. But here we are, finishing the third burn, and we are going to swap to the second stage to begin its recovery. But first we have to fix the orientation of the satellite, which I wanted to make it look like the TriSat configuration, but I don't care. So here we are, deorbiting the second stage because we are good space stewards. If you remember in the last videos, my low Earth orbit was pretty cluttered with a bunch of test satellites and spare rocket parts that I practiced my rockets before I launched them, so that's what I do. But here we are, re-entering Earth's atmosphere. In reality, we would be needing a heat shield to slow something down of this size, but since it's spaceflight simulator, who cares? And here's me slowly panicking since we were going kind of fast and nearing when the parachutes are supposed to deploy. And you can see we're still moving pretty fast, but as soon as we deployed one of the satellites, we just slowed down a lot. But not just slow enough, so we really had to use 4 parachutes for this second stage to completely stop. But you can see me slowly deploying the chutes one by one because 500 feet, 500 meters. Is it meters? Yeah, 500 meters. Every 500 meters, I have to deploy a parachute. Then I leave them to auto deploy on their own. But yeah, this is pretty much the end of the video. Very short video, just showing you how to launch 3 satellites in one. And in the next episode, I might either be doing a Mun station, which again I haven't done in a long time, or revisiting the old first space station that we launched. And yeah, there's that. And I hope you like, subscribe, share this video with your friends and family, and I will see you all in the next video. Goodbye.